Good morning, everyone. I see we have the clerk's here, and that's the matter we're going to begin with this morning. Counsel, if you'll go ahead, please.
Thank you. May it please you,
I
Madam.
think we have to swear the witnesses.
May it please you, Madam Chairman and Commissioners. The witnesses this morning are Mr. Charles Clark and Ms. Carol Clark. I propose to start with Mr. Charles Clark, so I'd ask that he be sworn or affirmed,
Very well.
depending on his persuasion.
I can be sworn, that's not a problem.
Repeat after me. I, Charles Clark,
I, Charles Clark,
swear by Almighty God
swear by Almighty God
that the evidence I shall give
that the evidence I shall give
shall be the truth,
shall be the truth,
the whole truth,
the whole truth,
and nothing but the
nothing
truth.
but the truth.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Could you state your name for the record, sir?
Charles Arthur Randall Clark,
And you live in what parish?
Pembroke Parish,
And you live in what country?
Bermuda.
Do you know Miss Carol Clark?
Yes, my older sister.
And please don't tell her age, we won't go there. What's your occupation, sir?
I'm a civil servant, the registration manager at the Transport Control Department.
Just going to try to adjust your microphone a bit.
Should I repeat that, or is that?
Yeah, please repeat it.
Okay, I'm the transport.
Thank you.
Okay.
Could you state your mother's name?
Dr. Faith Burgess Clark.
How many siblings do you have?
5.
What are their names?
It would be Carol, Donna, Sherry, Philip, and Craig.
Just going to ask you to repeat it, but a little slower for me, please.
Okay, so it would be Carol, Donna, Sherry, Philip, Craig.
And could you share with us their surnames?
Sherry is a Vitter, or the rest are Clarks.
Okay. Thank you. What is your father's name?
Randall Bradford Clark.
Are either of your parents alive?
Just my mother.
And to your best knowledge, what she has told you how old she is?
Yeah, she's 92.
Where does she presently reside?
She's at 102 North Shore Road, Pembroke East.
And it's just because you said North Shore.
Yes.
Thank you. Now, you know why you're here today?
Yes.
Could you tell us?
Well, we're here to discuss or look at the compulsory purchase of property from Agatha Burgess in 1956.
And Agatha Burgess, who is she to you?
It was my grandmother.
And She is your mother's mother or
Yes,
father's
my
mother?
mother's mother.
Are you aware whether your grandmother had any children? How many children do your grandmother have?
It would be 3.
Okay. And their names?
Dwight Burgess, deceased, and Vivian Keynes, deceased. And Dr. Faith
And
Burgess.
your mother?
Yes, correct.
Sorry, I just have to go through this process. It may seem, questions seem,
No problem.
they answer themselves. Now, you indicated earlier that the reason for being here is in respect of property. Where was that property situated?
That would be at 185 North Shore Road, Hamilton Parish.
And in respect of that property, you have been advised that the property was compulsorily acquired.
A portion of the property was acquired in 1956 via compulsory purchase.
Now, in respect of that acquisition, do you have anything in support of what you have been advised occurred in 1956?
Well, I have a copy of the original conveyance dated May 5th, 1956. This was a conveyance between the Bermuda government and Agatha Charlotte Eve Burgess. And it says conveyance of lots of land situate in Hamilton Parish in the islands of Bermuda.
Okay. Now, just before you go any further, I'm going to, sorry, just assist me. I need to know which one. I need to know which one that is. Okay. Could you just could you hold the document up for me? I could see it. Does it have a number? Is it marked?
No, it isn't marked. But based on this statement, it will be either 12 or 13A.
Grave indulgence, madam.
It was included in the original information that was sent.
Thank you.
Oh, well, under this here, it's going to be conveyance 5.
Okay. The document you refer to, that you refer to as conveyance 5, does it have any markings on it?
This copy has markings that my sister has. My copy is probably the original copy that was submitted.
Could you just hand the document to me a minute, please? You don't do it. Thank you very much. I just put this on. Thank you. Madam Chairman and members, the document dated 5th May 1956, Government of Bermuda and Agatha Charlotte Eve Burgess, conveyance of lots of land situated in Hamilton Parish in the islands of Bermuda, which consists of 5 pages that will be tendered as and admitted as exhibit.
Would be 5.
we could make it an exhibit with Mr. Charles Clark, CC.
CC1.
But perhaps we could do his middle name, because I believe Miss Clara Clark is also CC. So could we do the middle name as well? What's your middle name, Mr. Clark?
Well, I don't use my middle name, but Charles was better.
Charles?
Yes.
So CC.
Correct.
CC1.
Or you can put CHC. That's easy.
CHC1.
CHC1. Very well.
Just give it back to him. No, I think she wants to upload it. Crave your indulgence. We're just trying to facilitate it being uploaded. I crave your indulgence. Now, before we go any further, Mr. Clark, are you aware of the circumstances that led to the compulsory acquisition of this property?
Yes.
Could you share that with us?
Well, the property was originally owned by my great-grandfather, which was Daniel Bascom. Daniel Bascom had 16 children, and of which one was my grandmother, which would be Charlotte Eve Mallory Bascom, who had the 3 children, which would have been Tresillia Warner. Actually, it's more than 3. It's like at least...
Don't go so fast,
okay.
but yes.
So it would be Tresillia Warner, Agatha Burgess, Cecily Casey, and Whitfield Richardson. Ira. And that was it.
Okay.
Okay. Mr. Bascom himself, the original person who purchased the land, appeared to have purchased land from Dub City, if you're familiar with Bermuda, going east until Limehouse Hill in Hamilton Parish, running from the roadside to the water's edge. In 1950, Mr. Daniel Bascom, through, as they say, voluntary conveyance, gave his land up to the government of the day for the building of Francis Patton.
And just for clarification, Francis Patton, what exactly is that?
Francis Patton is an elementary school. From 1950 to 1956, based on documentation in the Royal Gazette, it was evident that the government of Bermuda was in conversation with my uncle Whitfield and my grandmother Agatha for the remaining of the purchase of their land in order to facilitate a school field.
Just before you go any further, you make reference to the Royal Gazette.
Yes.
The Royal Gazette that you refer, is it dated?
Yes.
What? Please share that with us.
It's dated January the 31st, 1956. That looks like it has number 6 on it.
Crave your indulgence. This is list.
That should be the newspaper articles.
Crave your indulgence. We're just projecting the document on the screen. I'm going to ask that the document which is in the possession of the witness that that document is
It says 7.
tendered there are 2 newspaper articles.
Well, it's the same article. It's 2 pages.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Dated Tuesday, January 31st, 1956. The title, Exorbitant Price for School Field Site, is criticized in Assembly. 2 pages. I'd ask that they be tendered and admitted as CHC 2A and CHC 2B.
Two A and 2B, do you make a distinction between them? Which one is 2A?
2A,
It's the first page.
well, 2B has that beneath the heading. It says continued from page 1.
Okay.
Just keep it now.
So 2A would be page 1.
Yes.
Thank you.
Could I just ask you, Mr. Clark, just to read that article for us?
What, the entire article?
Yes.
Exorbitant price for school field site criticized in Assembly. And it begins. I think the price they are asking is absolutely daylight robbery, declared Mr. A.E. Nickel in the House of Assembly yesterday. He was referring to the proposed acquisition of 2 strips of land adjoining the Francis Patton School property in Hamilton Parish, which the Department of Education wants to acquire for a playing field. The lots are owned by Miss Agatha Burgess and Mr. Whitfield Richardson. Miss Burgess wanted 1,300 pounds for her 0.32 acre lot. Well, this is cut off at the belonging to the school, measuring 0.150 acres, to be turned over to Mr. Richardson, and Mr. Richardson wants 1,800 for his 0.243 acre lot. The Board of Public Works places the following valuations of the land: Miss Burgess, 550 pounds, Mr. Richardson, 425 pounds. I can't see the additional part of that. It's not clear on my paper. And some says land of 262 pounds. Mr. Nichols appeared to reflect the feelings of the House. A number of members spoke of compulsory purchase, and other members criticized the department for not buying sites for a playing field when they bought property for the school. Some members felt that the school was in a bad place. Opening the debate, the Honorable H.T. Watlington, chairman of the Board of Education, said he had referred to the matter during the debate on the 1956 estimate. It was thought that the government should acquire the land across the road from the school, but subsequently the owner did not wish to sell. The site would have been expensive to convert into a playing field, Mr. Watlington said. A next right-of-way would have had to have been provided through the property. You will remember, Mr. Speaker, what difficulty the board had in acquiring the property which the school now stands. Mr. Watlington continued. Sir John Cox, the Speaker, was the chairman of the Board of Education. Heading extremely high. Mr. Watlington said the board had considered the price asked by Mr. Richardson and Miss Burgess high, and the Board of Public Works considered it extremely high. I will point out to the honorable member in the playing field are very important in our education system today. Mr. Watlington continued. It is considered almost definite requirement that we should have a playing field for each of our schools. We cannot move the school, and I think we should agree to pay a higher price than would ordinarily be the case, Mr. Watlington said. Mr. J.P.E. Veazey, chairman of the Finance Committee, was worried by the high price, and he suggested government should use its powers, and I'm going to put it again, he suggested the government should use its powers of compulsory acquisition under the Acquisition of Land Act 1941. I feel it is wrong to agree to unreasonable prices. Mr. Veazey said the price asked was the equivalent of 7,000 pounds an acre. He felt the House should go into the committee and then make some motion for taking other steps. Mr. Veazey mentioned that the property from the foot of the lane to the south shore over which the road was supposed to be, and no agreement, and the only information we have been able to get is that the government was unable to come to a satisfactory agreement with the owners, Mr. Veazey said. Mr. Veazey moved that the House go into committee, and Mr. G.E. Powell took the chair. Mr. S.S. Todding did not think the government should be grounded in matters of that sort. He said compulsory acquisition had been used for the purchase of lands for Furnace, Whitty, and other United States bases. Mr. Al Tucker agreed with Mr. Veazey, but only partly with Mr. Todding. He suggested the difficulty had come about because the Board of Education had not foreseen its requirements. It's human nature for people to get what they can. He continued, the school had been built for between 40,000 pounds and 45,000 pounds. It was human nature for people who own property to think there was going to be a demand for an extension. Cannot concur. I certainly cannot concur with that price, Mr. Tucker said. Sir John Cox remarks, I am afraid that this is one of the problems to which I contributed when I was chairman of the Board of Education in 1943. At the time, the Temperance Hall School was overcrowded, as was Cripplegate School. Some children were lodged in the temporary quarters in a large room on Blue Hill. The board attempted to find sites for 5 years and eventually were able to acquire the site of Francis Patton School from the Bascom estate. Mr. Bascom agreed to sell 2 acres and the board attempted to negotiate with the owners of 2 areas which the House had under discussion. They refused to sell, so the board went back to Mr. Bascom and finally agreed to sell 4 acres. Sir John did not like the use of appropriation except in the last resort. It was the thought of the board that it would be possible to locate the school so that a playing field could be made. Sir John said, eventually on the strong advice of Works Department, the school was designed to follow the contour of the land. But the building of the school was made it impossible to locate a playing field on the site. Perhaps the board should not have agreed to the plan, Sir John said. But Mr. Chairman, after 4 years of negotiation, the board felt pretty desperate. I would not like it to be thought that I'm criticizing the Board of Works, Sir John added. The Board of Education might be criticized for the present problem. We explored every alternative that we could find, and Sir John said, but we did not think of any site would be as suitable. Wholly extravagant. Mr. H.J. Tucker thought it was wholly extravagant price, and I don't think it is wise for the government to establish a precedent, he said. I hope that other members who have that point of view will express it. Mr. D.C. Smith thought the government should acquire all land compulsory purchase. It was the fair way to do it. The House continually asked to adjudicate on the land values. He said, I don't think the House can possibly place a value on land. Such cases should be sent to a jury to adjudicate the price. Mr. Smith suggested that in some cases, a project came before the House and the House in its enthusiasm agreed to pay a higher price for land than it should have done. Mr. Smith suggested that the purpose should not put that the purpose should be put before the House, not the price. I think it's time for the matter to be reviewed, he said. Mr. J.P. Veazey thought the school had been built on an unsuitable tract of land. He also felt that Sir John Cox had been weak. Mr. Veazey asked the members from Hamilton Parish to say something. He then suggested that the land across the road was more suitable and that 5 to 6 acres of it should be purchased. The present site would be too small in 2 or 3 years in any case. If we cannot make a reasonable agreement, the owner across the way then let us purchase, if compulsorily, Mr. Veazey said. Should I tell them? In such cases, Mr. Veazey felt the government should tell them straight. Now look, the government requires your land. And I repeat, in such cases, Mr. Veazey felt the government should tell them straight. Now look, the government requires your land. School which looked large now will look inadequate with the growth of our population, Mr. Veazey stated. We might as well face it. Mr. Nichols was against the purchasing of the land at the price asked. He suggested there should be land to allow the government to purchase land it needed. Mr. E.H. Bond said the site was not suitable for building that size. He disliked the idea of a playing field on one of the bleakest places on the island. Interesting. Mr. W.L. Tucker hoped the chairman of the Board of Education, Mr. Watlington, would give some explanation about the policy of the Board of Education. Did they buy sites for both school and playground at the same time? Mr. H.B.L. Wilkinson, a member of Hamilton Parish, said the land on which the school is built and the land across the road belonged originally to the Bascom estate. The other land belonged to the estate of the late Reverend Austin Richardson. The attempt to get the land for the school dated back to the time of the late Sir Henry Watlington's chairmanship of the Board of Education. Excellent setup. If we had a playing field, the site would make an excellent setup, Mr. Wilkinson said. That it is a very fine piece of land. The land on which the school stood was fertile. Mr. Wilkinson felt the people who had their houses there did not want a playing field next door. For a long time, they had not wanted to sell the land at any price. The present chairman of the board has done good work in persuading them to sell. Mr. Wilkinson added, he thought that there might be land behind the school. Mr. J. Fred Tucker thought the price was exorbitant, but the provision should be made for a field from the start. He thought the school was on a good site. Sir John Cox remarked he had been brought up on the North Shore. I have a great liking for invigorating climate of the North Shore, he said, and amid laughter. In his time as the Board of Education, it had been the policy to keep schools to 360 to 400 pupils and to build a new one rather than extend an old one. Later, Mr. Watlington said this was the present policy. The Francis Patton School was placed to be between the two great centers of population in Hamilton Parish, Shelley Bay and Bayless Bay. Mr. Watlington said it was the present policy to buy school and playing field sites together, but this had not been done by the older generation. This school is one of the few now without a playing field, Mr. Watlington said. Mr. Tudding said the house of one of the owners was on government land. Mr. G.O. Rattery criticized the site of the school because it was on the S-shaped band on a busy road, was on a slope, and was in a bleak place. He felt the price of the land was high. The committee rose and reported progress. The matter will be considered further, and this has been set down for tomorrow. That was the end.
Thank you very much. I assure you I won't let you read anything that long again.
Oh, that's all right.
The document that you read from, exhibits CHC 2A and 2B, under the subheading in the article, Excellent Setup, it mentions that and I use the actual quotation, for a long time they had not wanted to sell the land at any price. Can you confirm that that is true?
Well, based on my conversations with my mother, I would say that was yes, and also with brief conversation to my aunt who recently passed in January, Dr. Ada Niabongo, I would say yes.
I was going to ask you to speak a little slower,
Oh, okay.
and just to repeat that after your mother.
After my mother, I would say that yes, and also from conversations I had with my deceased aunt, Ada Niabongo, I would have to say yes.
Okay. And what was your aunt's age at her passing?
She was 94.
Now, can you share with us exactly what you had been told by your mother?
I was basically told by my mother of the history of the Bascom estate, of how her grandfather purchased the land, and if you look at the numbers, it would have been almost equivalent to at least 8 to 10 acres, of which, as I stated earlier, he had 16 children. Those 16 children, in his view, should have received something from him, and that's what he had intended to do. My mother's part of her mother and my great-grandfather, Reverend Orson Richardson, they did receive a portion. The remaining family members, who I might speak of at this point, they technically got little or nothing, based on the fact that the government of the day decided that in their view, that this gentleman should not have this particular land. And that is my view,
Okay.
based solely on this, what I have read to you just now.
Okay. I'll get most of the details in terms of size and price and so from your sister, but I'm
Right.
just laying the foundation with you here now. Now, in respect of your aunt who has passed, did she share anything with you with regards to her understanding?
Well, I mean, if you get to family gatherings and that topic is raised, then that will be the conversation that you have, and they will speak about how some of them felt, and there were some who just didn't want to speak about it.
And do you know why some did not want to speak about it?
Well, I mean, I'll put it this way. The remaining property on my grandmother's site, she lived there. Could you imagine waking up every day prior to 1956 and looking out at your property? You have 3 children. And then after 1956, you wake up and that land now belongs to someone else. So it was a touchy subject for some.
And when you say touchy, can you say particularly what sort of emotions?
Well, the emotion came from the standpoint that there are some who felt that the Bascom family were targeted.
By who?
By the government of the day, based on some of them's involvement with the political associations of Hamilton Parish at that time.
And at the time, what was the political association of the Bascom family?
Well, my grandmother was part of the political association of Hamilton Parish, and there were also a few others involved, that her immediate siblings, that were also involved in politics, trying to make things right, as they would say.
I know your sister, Miss Clark, will tell us about it, but just in brief, in respect of what would you say was the major achievement, for want of a better term, in respect to the political movement there as it relates to your family?
Well, from what I've been told, and that's not just coming from my mother and some of her other relatives, but also from the club in which I serve at, or a member of Devonshire Recreation Club, and they had a picture of my grandmother and quotations of the work that she'd done. And Hugh Richardson, who was also one of the founding members of the PLP, was also her first cousin, so they had a relationship in regard to politics and wanting to see things better for blacks in Bermuda. Unfortunately, as you can see, as blacks made strides, it was always you had to step back. And that reminds me of that verse in that song, 1 step forward, 2 steps backwards.
No. You had given a statement in this matter, Mr. Clark,
Correct.
dated March 11, 2020.
Correct.
I'm going to show you a copy of that statement and ask you to identify it if you can.
Yes, that's the statement there. And at the bottom, you should see my signature.
Okay. I'm just going to have a copy of that statement handed to you. I know it's exhibited there, but I'm just going to ask you to have a look at it.
No, I have a copy.
Could I just... Cornelius, just get his from me, please.
This will be my original unsigned copy. That's my original.
I'll return it shortly. Can I just give it back to you? Thank you.
Thank you.
I got one outside. Sure, this one. That one does have a signature. Then another one here. At the very top of here. Do you see your signature on that document, sir?
Yes, at the back.
Thank you. I'm just going to ask that well, the contents of your statement, can you recall it without looking at the statement? Can you tell us what is
Not
in it?
necessarily.
Okay.
It's been a while.
Okay.
But if you like, I can read it. If,
No, just before you do so. Madam Chairman, I was going to ask that it be admitted an exhibit and allow him to
CHC3.
CHC3 and allow him to refresh his memory from it.
And it's the statement dated March 11, 2020?
It is,
Correct.
Madam Chairman.
Thank you.
should I proceed?
No,
Yeah.
just. Now, Agatha Burgess, who you mentioned earlier, she taught for many years at what school?
At Francis Patton, on the same property that they took.
So just to understand, because you gave an example earlier, prior to 1956, one, in my words, would wake up on the property, and after 1956, one would be looking at the property that one formerly lived on. So Agatha Burgess then taught on the land where she used to live.
Correct.
Is it Mrs. Burgess? Mrs. Burgess? Was she active in any particular church?
Bethel AME, where her father was the pastor.
What's the name of that church?
Bethel AME Church.
Okay. Was she a member of any missionary society?
Yes, she was.
And what missionary society was that? I think you could just refer to your statement.
Oh, okay. Oh, she was a member of the Missionary Society of the Women's Day activities of the AME Church.
Okay.
District Sunday School Superintendent as well.
Okay. You had mentioned earlier that she, well, in my words, she was a political activist.
Yes, she served as the secretary to the Political Association in Hamilton Parish. And as it states, was instrumental in helping Hilton Hill, Walter Robinson, and Gilbert Darrell win seats in the House of Assembly during an era when the odds were against blacks seeking to serve in Parliament.
Now, her mother, Agatha Burgess's mother, what was her name?
Eva Susan Isabella Richardson.
And did she, Eva Susan Isabella Richardson, convey any property?
Based on the history and the documentation that we have, we would say yes.
Okay. And the property was conveyed to who?
It was conveyed to Agatha Burgess.
Now, you had mentioned earlier Eva. You recall mentioning the name Eva?
Right, that would be my great-grandmother.
She was a daughter of who were her parents? Sorry.
Daniel Bascom and Charlotte Mallory Bascom.
And based on what you had been told, the property had been property that was owned by the Bascoms. Who had it been purchased from?
Mr. Sion. It says Ingle C. Sion.
Could you please spell that name?
ENGLESEA.
And what year was that and the acreage?
1851, and it looks like 2 acres. Or over 2 acres, sorry.
Could you read first the last paragraph of your statement?
Agatha's mother vested her interest, which was compulsory purchased, mostly leaving her with her house. They gave a little property on the side and a monetary interest not in keeping with the proper cost and value. She earned from the street on North Shore Road to the Atlantic Ocean down on the property where Francis Patton School the lower school is situated, right to the water encompassing the playing field, and where a government dock is situated, it's just next to that. And there is also a plan by Government Works, which bears out my case.
Could you just read that last? I think it's Public Works. You said Government Works.
Oh, sorry. There's a plan by Public Works which bears out my case. And it says, please review and send correct mandatory instruments in this regard.
This is the claim that you had submitted to the Commission of Inquiry.
Correct.
Now, you mentioned here that there's a plan by the Public Works which bears out your case.
Yes. This situation is still ongoing today. One of the commissioners can attest to that, as they are now still doing surveying and trying to take more of the property that was left to my grandmother. There has also been, as of 2017, was the last direct conversation between my sister, who's now the current owner of the property, and the Works and Engineering Department in regards to the easement right that was sought in 1956. Documentation would show from a legal standpoint, or even from the government of the day, that it should have been granted. However, to this day, nothing has happened. Government continuously comes back looking to inch by inch take a little extra.
I just pause here that probably at this time I will move on, but based on what had been said, probably some adverse notice would need to be given to the Attorney General's office based on the last comment. But I will, for this time, move on to the other areas and come back to it.
Thank you, Counsel.
Now, I'm just asking you to be extremely careful, because based on what you have just said, the Attorney General's Department is not here to defend themselves, so we just need to allow them an opportunity to do so. But I'm going to ask you some questions notwithstanding.
Okay.
You mentioned to this day certain developments are still taking place with regards to the land. Which land do you refer to?
That would be the remaining portion that was left by government after compulsory purchase for my grandmother.
Now let's go back to what was left. Without us making reference to any documents, tell me what is your understanding that happened. What was taken and was there a remainder? Please just share that with us.
So based on the deed plan of the land,
So could you just, that document, the first one that you referred to, the very first document?
yes, it was part of that package.
So CHC1, Madam Chairman, which comprised of 5 pages, is presently projected on the screen.
Correct.
Yes, you may go ahead, sir.
So after the compulsory purchase, you will notice that the government of the day gave my grandmother, it would be 44.6 wide.
I'm just going to ask you just for a minute, Mr. Clark. I know the cursor is not in front of you. I'm just going to see if the person who is operating it can assist you with the cursor. I'm sorry, could you minimize it so the entire page is shown? Just indicate what you are referring to. Let us
So
see.
the portion in the white, that's clear. That was what my grandmother.
Sorry, speaking to the microphone.
Okay, the portion in the white, that's where my grandmother's house is located. And then
I'm
to the
just-
left of that,
I'm just going to ask you what you refer to as white, because we're seeing
the
pink.
reddish looking color portion is the portion that was taken via compulsory purchase.
Okay,
That was just not-
a minute. Could I just ask you to run the cursor along that rectangle just to ascertain if that is what he's referring to?
Yes, that's the compulsory purchase part of the property. The portion to the top of that, in the white, that is the property that is currently,
Sorry, no. That to the left of it or above?
no, straight ahead, I mean, right where the hand is now.
Okay.
Right. That is the portion of the property that now remains in the possession of my sister, Sherry Ritter, and her husband, Cyril.
Could you repeat her name slowly for me?
Sherry Ritter.
So your understanding is that after the compulsory acquisition of the area you showed us earlier, that portion was left.
Yes, that's because that's where her house was at the time. So if you see the other portion that's to the left of that, it says 70 by 77. That appeared to be what government gave back to her along with the 1,000 ponds. Now, however,
Sorry, we have to, just a minute. Not sure about, what are you referring to when you say 1,000 pounds?
well, that was what they took the property from her for 1,000 pounds for her particular property. They also gave her back that little piece to the left, which would indicate that they took my grandfather's property via compulsory purchase, and they gave his granddaughter back a portion of what they had already taken.
Okay. Now, can you assist us, the area that you referred to where the house existed, based on your understanding, can you tell us what is represented just to the east of it? Madam, I'll just put the arrow just below it. No, same one, but put it at the, just below. Where's the arrow? I'm sorry. No, take it down for me, to the bottom left. Yes, yes. What to your
So
understanding?
that portion outside of that little square
Yes.
is a property now owned by Francis Patton, or occupied by Francis Patton.
And that, to your mind, is where the school is?
That's where the school field is. On the lower part is also the elementary school that would be directly in front where you see the 44 by 3. So part of the elementary school sits on that property. And then adjacent to that, you see Whitfield Richardson. That was my uncle's property, which they also took. Now he had no children, so at that point, we now become somewhat involved in that particular representation.
Okay. Now, in relation to the said Exhibit CHC1 and the area you first draw attention to, the area in what appears to be the color pink.
Yes,
Can
correct.
you say exactly what is situated there now?
That's a playing field, part of the playing field,
Okay.
and
So-
of the elementary school.
Okay, so just to recap, the land having been acquired, the area in what appears to be pink became a playing field, correct?
That's correct.
The area to the left of the playing field, which is to the west of the playing field, became a school, and two schools are there. How many schools?
Well, see, you're looking at two different sections. This particular drawing just shows you the lower portion of the elementary school at Francis Patton and the playing field.
Okay.
To the east of that, heading towards St. George's, you'll see the upper portion of the upper school.
Okay. Thank you. We don't have that document. You had mentioned earlier to us I'm sorry, could I just have it projected again? For completeness, what is part of Exhibit CHC1? It has the words Whitfield Richardson.
That was my grandmother's brother, who also lost his property via compulsory purchase.
And he had no children.
He had no children.
To the east of the area in pink, the area that you indicate is now a playfield, that is colonial government land. To the west of that, to the south of the map of that, yes. The area where the arrow is, that is marked colonial government land.
That would be additional land that goes up towards the upper school.
And that land, to your knowledge, was not owned by your family. It was never owned by your family.
Yeah, Daniel Bascom, my great-grandfather. Remember, the entire site on which the school sits was property that was compulsory purchased from the Bascom family, inclusive of my grandmother who married a Richardson.
It's just that we still haven't gotten to the conveyance yet. I'm just asking you just to indicate for me, without more from the diagram, what is depicted there. But the conveyance, I won't give evidence, but the conveyance we'll soon have a look at. But I'm just asking you to tell me
Okay,
what's there.
understood. Because if you were to enlarge that particular drawing, you will see the bottom part, you see the fragments of the, yeah, correct. So that goes uphill, up steps to that particular portion of the elementary school.
Thank you very much. Now, you had mentioned earlier in your statement the public works. There's a plan by Public Works which bears out my case. You said that earlier.
Yes, correct.
Do you have a copy of that in your possession?
Well, I have this that was attached to that documentation. Yeah.
CHC
Correct.
1. Okay, we'll come to the conveyance in a minute. Now, your statement also indicates that the property from the street North Shore Road to the Atlantic Ocean, downward the property where Francis Patton School, lower is situated right to the water encompassing the playing field, and where a government dock is situated. I'm just going to project the picture again and ask you to take us along that path that you mentioned. Could you show us in terms of what you have in your statement from the street, North Shore Road? Could you assist with that?
Okay, so from the street on North Shore Road, you see where the house in the light goes straight through to the pink. As you get to the edge of the pink...
I'm sorry. I'm just going to ask. The arrow is going to assist the
Right, so
commissioners.
come to the edge of the pink to my right there. That is the end of the playing field. Adjacent to that, you will see the trail, the railroad trail. Property was taken there in, I believe, 1924 for the building of the railroad trail. To the foreshore side is the remaining property that they were looking to get an easement over in order to get to the property.
Okay. You said down to where the property where Francis Patton School is that you identified to us earlier?
Yes, correct.
Right to the water encompassing the play field?
Well, it's just before the water because remember, as I just stated, the government of the day took part of the railway trail from most persons who had property in that particular area in order to build the railroad trail, because that's when they had the train. On the other portion of that land was left to its original owners. So that goes right to the ocean side. To the right of this property, you will probably see it's a new dock that the kids would use when they go swimming, if swimming is part of their gym.
Okay.
Right.
And that is what you refer to as the government dock?
Yes, correct.
Thank you. Now, in respect of what you said earlier that I indicated to Madam Chair regarding the government, those sets of questions I will leave until our representative is here. I won't pursue that line of questioning until someone else is here, so I'll just make a note of it and come back to it after.
That's fine. I also have in my possession was the original letter that was sent in by my sister and my brother-in-law, because both of us had made submissions. To the bottom of his letter, which went in, which he said that he would allow myself and my sister to continue on with the process, it's highlighted that...
Just before you do it, just let me see the document first because it's not evident.
It has been stamped by the commission. If you would look to the last, I guess, sentence there, it says my wife and I, and you would see that in 2017, the widows made representation to Works in Engineering in regard to.
And you don't mind us having a copy of this because we wish to have it tendered as an exhibit.
Oh, no, that's fine.
Now, just to take you back to the document, that is a letter signed by your brother. What is his name?
My brother-in-law, Cyril Witter.
Okay. And that document is co-signed?
No.
Okay. And that's the original document you have there?
Yes.
And you'd like to place reliance on it?
Yes.
How did you come in possession of that document?
Well, because this would have been a joint venture, I had started the process with my sister Carol. Sari, my sister, and her husband were all aware. The unfortunate part, we never got together, so 2 submissions were made.
Okay.
So I gave him a copy of the stuff that I submitted, and he gave me a copy of the stuff that he and my sister submitted.
Okay. Now, so that document be tendered as CHC 5 4. CHC 4, I'm sorry. Ask that the witness be allowed to read the document.
It's entered as exhibit CHC 4, and yes, he has permission to read it.
Okay. And it begins, Dear Sirs, 185 North Shore Road. Kindly accept this letter as my application to give evidence to the Commission of Inquiry into Historic Land Losses. My wife and I own the property located at 185 North Shore Road, Hamilton Parish. The property borders Francis Patton School. The details of the land loss are as follows. The property was previously owned by my wife's grandmother, Miss Agatha Burgess. Prior to 1956, the property ran from North Shore Road to the ocean. In 1956, the Bermuda government requested a large section of the property on the ocean front by transfer by Miss Burgess to the Bermuda government for use as Francis Patton School. The land was requested was 0.345 of an acre. The transfer of this oceanfront property was enforced under the Acquisition of Land Act 1941 and the Public Works Acts of 1930. Consideration provided to Ms. Burgess was 1,000 pounds plus a piece of roadside property measuring 1.28 of an acre. This remuneration was grossly inadequate given the side of the oceanfront property taken. The Bermuda government allowed Ms. Burgess to keep a portion of the property beside the railway trail on the ocean. Ms. Burgess requested a right-of-way that would allow her access to the oceanside property, but this was not granted. In fact, a wall, a fence, were erected by the Bermuda government blocking access from the property at 185 North Shore Road. This wall and fence continues to block access today. My wife and I engaged the Ministry of Public Works in 2017 without success. There is still no right-of-way. The government wall and fence are still blocking access. We are in possession of documents supporting the above. Kindly advise as next steps. Thank you. Yours sincerely, Cyril H. Ritter, Jr.
Thank you. Now, when you mentioned earlier that which I indicated, we need to give adverse notice to the Attorney General. When you mentioned earlier that there are ongoing, my words, discussions, developments, is this what you refer to?
Well, if I'm not out of place, Mr. Stovall, who is the commissioner, can speak to that, if allowed. But however, based on the information provided to me from my sister, that there are ongoing surveying taking place, if not on the property, but close to the property, which went back to my grandmother.
Okay. Yes, we'll get that from a witness. Thank you. Now, you had mentioned earlier, which I had drawn your attention to in your statement, the plan by the Public Works Department, Public Works, and you had drawn my attention to CHC 1. Included in CHC 1 is there conveyance under the Public Works Department Act
Yes.
1930 and the Acquisition of Land Act.
Yes, 1941, correct.
Could I just ask you to read that document, which is a part of CHC 1?
dated May 5th, 1956, the government of Bermuda and Agatha Charlotte Eve Burgess, conveyance of lots of land situated in the Hamilton Parish in the islands of Bermuda.
Yes.
Conveyance under the Public Works Department Act of 1930 and the Acquisition of Land Act 1941, whereas it is agreed between the government of Bermuda and Agatha Charlotte Eve Burgess of Hamilton Parish in the islands of Bermuda that Agatha Charlotte Eve Burgess shall grant and release unto her majesties, her heirs and successors, the strip of land delineated and colored red on the drawing 146D-2, prepared by the Public Works Department of Bermuda and dated April 4th, 1956, a copy of which drawing is hereunto annexed, and that in consideration of the said grant that the government of Bermuda shall pay to the said Agatha Charlotte Eve Burgess the sum of 1,000 pounds, and shall grant and release a lot of land delineated and colored green on the drawing aforesaid unto and to the use of the said Agatha Charlotte Eve Burgess, now for the purpose of giving effect to the said agreement, I, Charlotte Eve Burgess, in consideration of the sum of 1,000 pounds paid to me by the government of Bermuda, and of the grant hereafter mentioned, to hereby grant and release unto her majesty, her heirs and successors, all that strip of land delineated and colored red on the drawing of a said, together with all rights and appurtenances thereto belonging, and such a state, right, title, and interest in, and to the same as I am and shall become seized of possession, or am by an act or law empowered to convey, and I, Cyril Hilton Smith, Director of Public Works of the Islands of Bermuda, do hereby, in accordance with the Public Works Act of 1930, and in consideration of the grant herein before mentioned, grant and release upon the said Agatha Charlotte Eve Burgess all that lots of land delineated and colored green on the drawing of a said, the appurtenances,
Yes.
to who the same unto and to the use of the said Agatha Charlotte Eve Burgess, in witness whereof I the said Agatha Charlotte Eve Burgess, and I said Cyril Hilton Smith, have hereunto set our hands and seals this 5th day of May, 1956, signed, sealed, and delivered by the said Agatha Charlotte Eve Burgess in the presence of, I see my grandfather's signature there, and I'm not sure who the other person is, but it's my grandmother and also Cyril Smith.
Thank you. Madam Chair, what I'm proposing at this time, I would not take Mr. Clark any further, especially based on the submission I had made in respect of adverse notice being given to the Attorney General. I would propose that we await the arrival of the representative from the Attorney General. I'm not sure if that's today or another day, but I could then continue or start with Miss Carol Clark with her evidence, and I just reserve the right to continue with Mr. Clark and for us to continue in that regard.
So, Mr. Clark, you've heard what counsel has said. We're going to have you stop giving your testimony at this stage, because we need to serve adverse notice on the Attorney General.
Okay, understood.
And once that's done, we're going to recall you to continue your testimony.
Not a problem.
In the meantime, we'll have Ms. Carol Clark be sworn. Could someone swear her, please? And then we'll hear, what she has to say in terms of testimony, and counsel, if he needs to have her stop at any point, he will do so. You may take off your mask, Mrs. Clark.
Caroline Elizabeth Clark.
I swear by Almighty God
I swear by Almighty God
that the evidence I shall give
that the evidence I shall give
shall be the truth,
shall be the truth,
the whole
the
truth,
whole truth,
and nothing
and
but
nothing but the truth.
Thank you, Ms. Clark. Counsel?
Thank you, ma'am. Could you state your name, madam?
Carol Ann Elizabeth Clark.
Thank you. Just for the avoidance of doubt, do you know Mr. Charles H. Clark?
Charles A.R. Clark.
I won't get into that. Yes, ma'am. And he is your brother
Yes, my eldest brother.
and seated next to you at this time.
Correct.
Okay. Now, you gave a statement to an investigator from the Commission of Inquiry into Historic Losses of Land in Bermuda,
Yes, I did.
and the statement taken from you is dated the 23rd day of November 2020.
Correct.
And that statement, if you see it again, you'd recognize it.
Yes, I would.
And you recognize it by what means?
Well, I have it right here.
Thank you. And just let me check to ensure what you have is what I have. I'm just going to ask somebody to take it from you. I'll have a look at it and then I will continue there.
Thank you.
What is that, ma'am?
Statement, witness statement.
Okay, your witness statement, the
Yes,
one
it is,
mentioned
correct.
earlier.
Would you like for me to read it?
Just before you do that, Madam Chair, I'm just going to ask that that be tender admitted as, well, I'm sorry, before I go there. Are you able to tell us what's the contents of the statement without looking at it, ma'am?
Well, it was written yesterday in a hurry.
So would you be able to, no, I'm
I
asking.
can try.
No, I don't want you to try, but can you tell me exactly what's in it without looking at it?
Well, it starts off with a bio
No,
from
no,
myself.
sorry, just yes or no. Are you able to tell me what's in it without looking at it?
No,
Okay. Would you like to be assisted by looking at it?
I would like that
Thank
very
you.
much.
Ask that the witness be, I'd like to have it tender admitted as an exhibit to allow the witness to refresh her memory from it.
So what's your middle initial, Ms. Clark?
Ann Elizabeth,
C.E. Clark?
C-A-E, C.
C-A-E?
Yeah, Ann, Carol Ann Elizabeth Clark.
Okay. And that's going to be C-A-E-1. C-A-E-C-1.
Thank you, madam. Your name is, as you just indicated, Carol Ann Elizabeth Clark,
Correct.
and you're the eldest child of Randall Bradford and Dr. Faith Burgess Clark.
Correct.
And you are here today for what purpose?
Making presentation to the commission on behalf of my mother.
And the presentation is with regards to what?
Her mother's estate, Agatha Charlotte Eve Richardson Burgess.
I was going to ask that our microphone is adjusted. I was going to have them take that closer to you so we can hear a little better.
Better?
Much better, thank you. Let me just take you back. You are a semi-retired community worker,
Correct.
and you live presently at what address?
100 or 102 North Shore Road, Pembroke.
Thank you. Yes, could you just take us to paragraph 2 of your statement?
This statement is tendered with the greatest humility and respect of the late Agatha Charlotte Eve Richardson Burgess, my grandmother maternal, a legacy in herself, a woman who was well respected in this community, no matter where she went. See her biography, which is exhibit number 2.
Just going to ask for it to be projected, the biography of the late Agatha. So projected there, who is that picture depicting?
That is my grandmother, Agatha Charlotte Eve Richardson Burgess.
Yeah. And just before we go any further, how many pages? Exhibit 2.
Okay, that there is just her picture in there. The actual bio is exhibit 2. That's
Okay.
just a picture, it's not numbered.
Okay, I'm just going to ask that is tendered and admitted as exhibit C. I'm sorry, CAEC 2.
CAEC 2
Thank you.
entered.
Thank you. Now, you are indicating that CAEC 2 is a picture and it also has a...
It has information from the 2014. Here is they had a cultural affairs meeting at where was it? City Hall, and that was the picture that was taken from them. But that is not her actual bio, which was another page in the dossier.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Now, you could continue in respect of paragraph 2.
Okay. She canvassed alone the length and breadth of Hamilton Parish years before my birth, and through her efforts, Hilton Hill and Walter N.H. Robinson were elected to the House of Parliament in the 1950s.
Okay. Just before you go further, to your knowledge, the property, the estate that you mentioned that you're here to present on, it is in the what parish is it?
Hamilton Parish.
You may continue.
She was the daughter of the late, well, I didn't put that, but Reverend Austin and Eva Susan Isabella Bascom Richardson, and their bios are exhibits 3 and 4.
Okay. Just allow us to project that, and before we do, we ask the permission of the chairman and the commissioners to rely on it. What is projected, is that what you refer to?
Yes, that's correct. That's the bio of my great-grandfather, Reverend Austin Richardson,
So just 1 minute, please.
and it's exhibit 3.
I'll come back to it in a minute. We'll come back to that in a minute, but please continue.
A strong Christian unit who were blessed beyond measure and invested in their daughter a vast amount of freehold property as part of her legacy and assets at an early age. And you can see Exhibit 5, which is the voluntary conveyance from my grandmother, my great-grandmother, and my great-grandfather to Agatha Charlotte Eve Richardson in 1924.
Okay, just 1 minute. Take this off.
Exhibit number 5.
I'm going to show you something, madam. Could you have a look at it? Tell me what it is. Just keep those together. Please have a look at that document, ma'am.
Yes, that's correct.
And the document is 2 pages.
It's, let me see what mine is.
Is this thing?
Yes, that's correct. 2 pages and a cover sheet.
Just have a look at that, please.
Correct.
Okay. Madam Chair, I ask that this document, which the witness refers to as Exhibit 5, be tendered and admitted as CAEC 5. 4. Thank you. CAEC 4.
It's 5. It's 5. Number 1 was the bio of myself.
One moment, please.
Sorry.
So this is a 2-page document plus the cover sheet,
Yes, it is.
and it's entered by the witness and referred to as her Exhibit 5, and we're entering it as our Exhibit CAEC 2.
The cover sheet you first.
Did I get that correct, Counsel?
It is. I crave your indulgence, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
That one. So just keep these together. Just show her. So CA
EC2.
3
Pardon?
is 3 pages. It's a cover sheet
Yes,
and 2
that's correct.
pages.
So it's, I have it listed as a 2-page document plus cover sheet.
That's correct.
Is that correct? Okay. And that was referred to by her as her Exhibit 5.
Thank you. I am advised on another note that representative from the Attorney General's Department is on way now.
Sorry?
I'm advised that the representative from the Attorney General's Department is on way now.
Oh, he's on his way. Okay.
Or a representative. I don't know the representative is male or female.
Yes, because I believe PS had informed him in relation to, no, not this matter. Okay,
Very well.
when someone is there. So that means we might be able to continue.
Very well. Now, Ms. Clark, the cover page of exhibit CAEC 3, could you just, what you refer to as exhibit 5 and cover sheet, could you tell us what is written on the cover sheet?
Cover sheet says Eva Susan Isabella Richardson and husband.
I'm sorry, could you just read from the very top of the page? There's
The
something-
date is the 14th day of April, 1924, and it's between Eva Susan Isabella Richardson and husband to Agatha Charlotte Eve Richardson and Agatha Burgess. And Agatha Burgess has signed the front. It says voluntary conveyance of parcel of land situated in Hamilton Parish in the islands of Bermuda. Bermuda Registrar General's offices, registered, I can't read the volume,
It's
it's conveyance to 2021, dated the 29th of April, 1924, and was signed by A.B. Rennie.
Thank you. And the second, what is the second page? I refer to the second page of CAEC 3. Could you bear with us and read that document?
The whole document.
I'd appreciate it.
This indenture made the 14th day of April 1924 between Eva Susan Isabella Richardson of Hamilton Parish in the islands of Bermuda, the wife of Reverend Austin Richardson of the first part, the said Reverend Austin Richardson of the same place, minister of religion of the second part, and Agatha Charlotte Eve Richardson of the same place, spinster of the third part, whereas by an indenture dated the 31st day of August 1918 and made between Daniel Charles Bascom and Florence Helena Bascom, his wife, of one part, and the said Eva Susan Isabella Richardson of the other part, for the consideration therein mentioned, the said Daniel Charles Bascom granted and released, and the said Florence Helena Bascom with the concurrence of the said Daniel Charles Bascom, and for the purpose of releasing her right or possibility of dower, release the hereditaments therein described unto and to the use of the said Eva Susan Isabella Richardson, her heirs and assigns forever. And whereas the said Eva Susan Isabella Richardson is desirous of conveying her to her daughter, the said Agatha Charlotte Eve Richardson, in fee simple, in possession, free from encumbrances, that portion of the said hereditaments as is hereinafter described, and whereas the said Reverend Austin Richardson has agreed to join in these presents to show his concurrence herein, and for the purpose of confirming the grant and release of the said Eva Susan Isabella Richardson, now this indenture witnesses that in consideration of natural love and affection which they said Eva Susan Isabella Richardson bears to her daughter, said daughter, the said Agatha Charlotte Eve Richardson, she, the said Eva Susan Isabella Richardson, doth hereby grant and release, and the said Reverend Austin Richardson, for the purposes of showing his concurrence herein and confirming of the grant and release of the said Eva Susan Isabella Richardson, doth hereby confirm unto the said Agatha Charlotte Eve Richardson, her heirs and assigns all that certain parcel of land situated in Hamilton Parish in the islands of Bermuda, bounded on the north by ocean, and there measuring 30 feet or thereabouts on the east by land, in the possession or occupation of Ainsworth Bascom, formerly of the said Daniel Charles Bascom, and south by the main public road, and there measuring 50 feet or thereabouts, and on the west by land of the said Eva Susan Isabella Richardson, heretofore held with the parcel of land now being described, or otherwise the said parcel of land may be bounded, may measure, or to do rights of ways, lights, privileges, easement, advantages, and opportunities whatsoever to the said parcel of land belonging or in otherwise anywise appertaining or usually held or occupied therewith, or reputed to belong or be appertinent thereto, and all that estate, right, title, and interest of the said Eva Susan Isabella Richardson and Reverend Austin Richardson, respectively, into and upon the said parcel of land, hereditaments, and premise, and every part thereof, to have and to hold the said parcel of land, hereditaments, and premise, hereby granted, released, and confirmed or expressed, so to be unto and to the use of the said Agatha Charlotte Eve Richardson, her heirs and assigns forever, in witness whereof the parties of these presents have hereunto set their hands and seals the day of year first above written.
Now, there are some signatures which appear at the foot of that document. Do you recognize any of them?
Yes, I do. My great-grandfather and his wife.
Okay. What names appear there?
Eva Susan Isabella Richardson and Austin Richardson.
Okay.
Signed, sealed, and delivered by the above Eva Susan Isabella Richardson and Reverend Austin Richardson, the sum of 5 shillings in revenue stamps having been previously hereto affixed for stamp duty in the presence of Joseph Frederick Warner, that would have been my Aunt Tress's husband, and Alfred McCarthy.
Thank you very much. Now, the one that was before, the one we're looking for there. Now, I'm just going to ask you to continue to take us through your statement.
Okay, where were we?
Paragraph 4.
Paragraph 4. Okay. Unfortunately, Agatha was ridiculed by having most of her land acquired by compulsory purchase under the Acts of Government statutes, namely the Public Works Department Act 1930 and the Acquisition of Land Act 1941.
Counsel, if I may interject, please. A representative from the Attorney General's chambers is here now. May he sit at that table?
Certainly.
Come forward, please. Thank you, counsel.
Could you just continue at, I'm sorry, could you just continue at paragraph 4 for me?
Paragraph, can I repeat it?
Please, thank you.
Unfortunately, Agatha was ridiculed by having most of her land acquired by compulsory purchase under Acts of Government statutes, namely the Public Works Act 1930 and the Acquisition of Land Act 1941. See Exhibit 6, dated May 5th, 1956.
Just 1 minute, please.
Okay, I'll just say.
6,
I beg.
Just give me 1 moment, please. I'm coming. Just going to ask that a document is shown to the witness. I just ask that counsel from the Attorney General's chambers could just have sight of the document before it is passed to the witness. What you're going to do is, this is what you're going to conjure a copy.
Counsel, may we have him state his name to put him on the record?
I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Myron Simmons, Senior Crown Counsel with the Attorney General's Chambers.
Thank you.
I know that counsel, Sir Simmons, has just joined us, but I was just out of courtesy just showing him the document
Indeed.
before the witness speaks to it. I know that we may need to give him a few minutes to catch his breath to look at the document, because I'm sure he's seen it for the first time. Probably.
You can continue your side.
You are about to, before I take you to the document, you're about to say something, man. I interrupted you.
I beg to state that my brother has already tendered this in his part of the evidence.
Okay. The witness is referring to Exhibit CHC part of CHC 1, a part of the 5 pages of CHC 1 Madam Chair.
Yes?
This witness is placing reliance on it. You may continue, Madam.
Okay. Section 5. Moreover, see Exhibits 8 to 11. Correspondence between Agatha
I'm
Burgess.
sorry. Could I just take you back to paragraph 4 after the date? You had not completed reading
The compulsory conveyance states that she was paid £1,000 cash with a transfer of 0.150 acres of roadside property to the east. And then the next exhibit has already been gone through the newspaper articles of January 31st, 1956 as well.
The witness makes reference to what is CHC 2. She's making reference to CHC 2. The newspaper article, we had A and B, 2A and 2B. She's making reference to it.
I have the exhibit, Councillor, CACE,
Pardon me.
because she's Elizabeth, CAEC. Just for completeness.
No, Madam Chair, the witness is making reference to CHC, which had been admitted through the witness, Mr. Clark. So it's already an exhibit, but she's making reference to it in her
Yes.
own statement.
I certainly appreciate that, Counsel. But what I wanted to say, the exhibit is marked CAEC, because it's Elizabeth's. What's your name?
Carol and Elizabeth Clark.
Carol
And Elizabeth.
and Elizabeth Clark. So I put the E in it as well, Elizabeth.
Madam Chair, I think what was being conveyed, it's already an exhibit, but it had been put in through Mr. Clark.
Okay.
It's already an exhibit. So she's just now making reference to the exhibit which exists.
Was put in
Was
through
put in.
Mr. Clark.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. You may continue, Madam.
Moreover, see Exhibits 8 to 11, which is correspondence between Agatha Burgess and the government of Bermuda concerning a request and granting of a right-of-way by foot. This has been blocked for a length of time by fencing, etc. And in actual fact, the Francis Patton Lower School is built on the
It's
proper
too fast.
boundary.
When it's too fast. When it's too
Sorry.
fast.
I'll start
Okay,
again.
let us get those documents and show them to you before you speak to them. Where's the original? Oh, that's the original file. So I need Exhibits 8 through 11. This is the original. So keep this thing here, huh? Because they're the ones. Because these are supposed to be the original ones. What? I think we need to separate them. I crave your indulgence, Madam. Sure. I think you should let us. I hope Mr. Simmons' speed reads. I just crave your indulgence. I'm allowing counsel documents to peruse the documents.
Certainly.
No, I have another copy, so you could just retain those for the time being, Mr. Secretary. Ms. Clark, I'm going to show you a document. You make reference to, in your statement, exhibits 8 through to 11. I'm going to show you a document. Please have a look at it for me.
Yes, that particular document is a letter from my grandmother to the Director of Public Works requesting. Yes.
Is that the
Yes,
document?
that's correct.
Going to
Request-
ask, just a minute, madam. Just going to ask that this is tendered and admitted as exhibit CAEC 4. And I'm going to ask you to read that document first before we go to the other one that's been shown to you. Could you read the first document for me?
Director, 5th of Bayless Bay, Hamilton Parish, 5th of May, 1956. Director of Public Works, Hamilton. Dear Sir, may I please be granted a right-of-way or easement over the land recently sold by me to government for a playing field in order that I may reach my land on the waterfront. Signed, Mrs. Agatha Burgess, received by Public Works, May 5th, 1956, file 827A. Surveyor, prepare plan, 8 feet right of way, and it's signed, but I can't see the date. I think it was something in May.
And there appears to be a box on the file. Is there?
Yes,
What is written therein?
I read that already. Public Works Department received May 5th, 1956, and file 827-A.
Thank you very much.
Council, before we press on, assist me, please. My next number I have there as CAC 3, but you have said CAC 4. Is that something that was entered by Mr.?
No, it was not.
No,
Madam
no,
Chair.
not yet.
This is supposed to be CAEC.
3 then.
I'm being advised it is 4, but probably we could just trace our steps back.
Richardson was CAEC 3.
I'm advised it was 3.
She put in the Bible column. It's all right. Yeah, this is,
So it's 3 or 4?
hers is 4. This next one is 4. The one before that was 5 of Reverend Boston.
With your leave, Madam Chair, the CAEC 1 is the witness's statement, Carol Clark's statement.
Right.
CAEC 2 is the bio
I have.
of Burgess, but I had actually asked that I would forego that because I had not had the document at hand. So probably you are correct because we had not actually put that document into evidence. So I think you're correct.
So CAC 3 then.
It's 3,
And
but
what are we characterizing CA3C as?
I crave your indulgence. Oh, we had the picture. That was 2. The conveyance features is wrong.
What are
Thank
we
you.
calling it?
I need to retrace my steps again. CAEC 1 is a witness statement of Ms. Carol Clark. CAEC 2 is a single page with a picture of Agatha.
The cover sheet
Cover
says.
Not the cover sheet yet, Madam Chair. It's just the bio. It's a picture. However, the witness had indicated it is not the bio included. The bio was made at another occasion, but it was some hall, some city hall. I'm not sure if that was a word to commemorate an occasion.
3 is a photo of her.
CAEC 3 is a conveyance deed,
Okay.
and I'm seeking now to applied to have tender admitted as CAEC 4 the documents which the witness refers to as exhibits 8 through to 11. So I'd ask that the document that the witness has, the very first one, it could be CAEC
I have it.
A, because there are a set of one-page documents that she's placed her reliance on that I'd wish could be kept together.
Very well.
The witness had commenced speaking about a response to that letter.
Yes, that's correct. That's the one we just put in. That was dated 1950s. Wait a minute. Let me see that again. And the 18th.
Okay, what I'm going to do, just for the avoidance of doubt, I have the documents here. Can this all be shown to her at once, and then I will take it from there. Council has the documents already. So. Just have a look at those other documents which you refer to as exhibits 8 through to 11.
Okay, that one's over there. Yeah, these are all correct.
Okay, could you just put them in the order for me? And I'll refer to them one at a time.
The 9th, they're in date order.
Okay. Could you just share with us the next one in date order? A document dated the 15th of May 1956.
Document dated the 5th of May, documented the 15th of May, the 18th of May, and the 23rd of May. They're in date order.
Just slowly, I'm going to ask you. The 15th of May 1956, the 19th of May 1956,
15th, 18th, and 23rd.
you're sure it's the 18th and not the 19th?
18th. I'm not wearing my glasses, but I'm sure that it's the 18th.
Do you have your glasses there?
No, didn't bring them with me.
And I can't lend you mine during this COVID time. But I think respectfully you may need them. Let us go to the next document. I'm going to show you the document which is dated 15th May 1956.
That's the 5th.
The documents which you refer to as exhibits 8 through to 11.
Correct.
I'm showing you now document with at the foot of the page 15th May 1956.
That's correct.
I'd ask that document be tendered and admitted as CAEC 5. Could I ask you just to read that document to us first before we proceed?
The actual document indicates, from the Acting Director of Public Works to the Honorable Attorney General, re Agatha Burgess. With reference to my conversation with Captain Cowie on 15th of May, I enclose a plan number 146A4 and letter from the above dated the 5th of May, 1956. The position is that when the railway acquired land from Mrs. Burgess, it left a small area between the railway bed and the sea in her ownership. This small area was not purchased with the bulk of property for the Francis Patton playing field, and she now asks for an easement to reach it. As she owned the property at the time of the purchase of the land by the railway company, would you please confirm that she has in fact established her right to cross both the land recently purchased from her and the railway there to reach her waterfront land? Presumably, this right has only been established on foot.
I was wondering if that was me, Madam Chair. I realize it's not. I'm going to show you another document. It is dated May 19. Take my word for it, even though I'm not giving evidence.
It says...
Just before you go there, Madam Chair, I asked that this document, which is dated May 19, 1956, be tendered and admitted as Exhibit CAEC 6.
And it's May,
May 19, 1956, Madam Chair.
CAE 6, yes?
And I asked the
CAEC
witness to
6.
read the letter into evidence.
From the Attorney General to the Director of Public Works. Reference your memo dated, your memo 827A PWD 56 dated the 15th of May 1956. I'm afraid that I cannot confirm, as in paragraph 3 of your minute under reference by Ms. Burgess obviously must be granted a right of way to get to her land. It could and perhaps should have been done at the time of the conveyance of the land to government by way of reservation, and I suggest that such a reservation should now be endorsed on the conveyance dated the 18th of May 1956, signed by the Attorney General J.B. Pine, I guess, and Public Works Department, received May 19, 1956.
And is it dated?
Dated the 18th of May 1956.
Is there a stamp appearing on the
The
document?
stamp says the May 19, 1956. That's what I just read.
So you're correct.
Yes,
My apologies,
correct.
ma'am. You know your documents.
Yes, I studied this.
Okay. There is another document. It is number 29, appears at the top right-hand corner.
Correct. It's
Just before you go there, I'm just going to ask Madam Chair that this document is tendered and admitted as Exhibit CAEC 7. Thank you. You may go ahead and read the document, Madam.
from the Director of Public Works, the Honorable Attorney General, ACE Burgess. I thank you for your letter of the 18th May 1956. As requested by Captain Cowie, I now enclose the conveyance dated the 5th of May 1956 and a copy of the plan 146A4, Director of Public Works, 23rd of May 1956. Now, what do I have concerning that? I have something.
No, the plan. Do you have a copy of the plan, which is the
Yes,
first?
I do, from Public Works, right here.
Just a moment, Madam.
That there is from, that there is done in April 1992. This is one from this 11.
Seems I may need to change places with Ms. Clark very soon. could it be shown to council? Show it to council, please. We have a copy also. We have just said here that we have 13th. The document, madam, that you referred to, do you have a marking on it with a number?
Well, I do have another plan here.
No,
I didn't, that one was just in my records. I didn't know that the other document didn't have the plan with it.
okay, so because you had not shared that one with us prior to today.
No,
Okay,
I
so
didn't,
I think-
I just found it.
Okay,
Right here.
and that's good. We need it, and I think that's what has happened. We are. That's why I say you and I need to change positions.
Did you want to keep this in evidence?
No, I'm going to. But what I need to do, council has seen it. I'm just going to ask you to. I'm going to ask that it be shown to the chair and the commissioners, seeing that it's the only copy. After they have seen it, I'm then going to ask for it to be tendered and admitted as an exhibit. So I just show them first before I proceed.
That's the North Shore. That's the North Shore. Right across. That's the railway trail. That's the one. It's just a little piece of land there. And there should have been access along here.
Oh, there was
Once the railway went away, they want access to that.
Somebody lives there?
That little strip is too small to build on. It's just a little bit, but a
Yeah,
little
so they want
access
access to get to the water?
to the ocean, yes.
Yes, yes. Tradition thing, it's that ocean side, is like doing a beachfront there or anything?
Just rocks. But people build a dock there.
So, that's what we can do with that, yes. And that is valuable?
Yes, because there is a dock that the schooner uses. It's nearby. Plus you can fish or just sit around.
Is that? Is that okay? So there's not a picture of it.
Right, so I thought I would need to for that specific.
It's valuable.
Just going to project it on the screen, so we're just using smart technology to do so. Sorry. This is that. Okay. Now, in respect of Ms. Clark, this is the last question I have. We're going to take a short break shortly, so I'm just going to ask you this question before the recess. In respect of Exhibit CAEC 6, reference is made to a plan which is attached. That is a plan that was attached, Madam.
Yes, correct.
Application, Madam Chair, is that document is tendered admitted as Exhibit 7, CAEC 7. How many pages
But
is that?
I have the letter
8.
from the Director of Public Works to the Honorable AG entered as CAEC 7.
I'm guided. This would be 8.
8, okay.
Thank you, Madam
Thank you.
Chair.
And we're calling it?
It's 11.
Could you characterize it for me? State what
It's
it
a
is.
plan of right-of-way grantation from the
Plan
Plan
of
in
right-of-way?
Hamilton County. Yeah, and it's dated the 15th day of the 7th, 1950. 56.
5th?
15th of the 7th, 55.
Okay.
It looks like 55 to me.
15th of July?
It looks like 55, but I could be wrong.
Could I see the document again?
I'm going to ask you, Ms. Clark, to take your glasses with you the next time you're here, please.
Where's the date? 55.
I can see.
It is the 15th of July, 1955.
Yeah, I can see.
And it is the waters of North Shore. The plan of the land in Hamilton Parish, scale, I don't know, I guess that's 40 feet to 1. Okay. That's it.
Thanks, Alberta.
I have it, Council.
Thank you.
It's CAC 8, and I have it as plan of the right-of-way dated the 15th of July, 1955. And it's the land in Hamilton, planning of the land in Hamilton Parish, scale 40 feet to 1.
Thank you. I propose at this stage, Madam Chair, to adjourn for the recess. I know we have another witness at 1:30. Having had a cursory glance at that witness's, what that witness proposes to share with us, I hopefully we could take an hour with that witness. So I'd ask that these witnesses return at 2:30 today.
Yeah. But I'm just thinking, our witness in the afternoon, we're not going to start that witness, are we? Or are we?
Well, at this stage, we could possibly alert that witness not to be here for 1:30, and we could
Yes.
continue.
I know that